Hello, this is Luke Turner, and I'm back with another episode of Building an Exercise Tracking Web App from Scratch. So let's do the usual stuff where we start our database. We run our client-side code bundler, open a new tab, and run the server. And then we can start iterating on some stuff. Let's go ahead and, well, let's just use our history here. Open this up in Chrome. Okay, we're ready to go. So first, let's look at our notes, the usual first step. And we kind of want to focus on these what do I need to do to ship things, right? So today I want to spend some time probably on style and UI things, also fixing the back buttons. Maybe I'll do that first because that's kind of a limited scope. And then we can spend the rest of the time working on some of the other things here. The landing page, again, we're kind of saving for the end so that we can have some screenshots and stuff like that with the new UI. Okay, so back buttons. Let's start with that. So what is this even talking about? Let's get some context. If I go to Manage Exercises and open the historical data for a given exercise, there's this back button here. And it takes me back to the Manage Exercises page. And that's great. But say I were to add a new set here, I actually have this little manage thing here, which shows me the last day's workout for this exercise. And if I click this See All, that also takes me to, well, in this case, yeah, the historical data page. But here, if I click back, it's actually going to take me still back to the Manage Exercises page, not back to the page that I actually was at before. So it's not really a back button at all in a literal sense. It's actually like a Go to Manage Exercises button, right? So maybe, kind of an obvious question is, do we need a back button at all? After all, the browser has one, right? But I do kind of want to have that explicitly part of the UI where there's like, yes, you can go back to the previous page without having to like click on the button in your browser, or if you're using your phone, you'd have to like click the back button or whatever. Not really that big of a deal, but in some apps, I don't know, I guess there's no real reason that doesn't work. Sometimes with apps, it's like you can't click back if you're in the middle of a form state, but obviously that's not the situation here. Anyway, so let's just say that we do want these back buttons for now, even though maybe it's not strictly required. We could think of something kind of cheaty and be like, well, why not just use the browser history API to like just do literally the same thing as a browser back when they click back. And that works fine if the user's browsing around the app. But if someone were to say bookmark this specific page, and then later they open their bookmark and they click the back button, it's going to take them back to the previous page in their browser history, which is going to be the site they were on before they clicked the bookmark, right? It's not going to actually take them back to like the Today page or whatever. So all that to say, if we're not going to rename this button and we're not going to implement it as literally a browser back, we're probably going to need to pass some kind of context through to the page in the link in order to say, hey, when the user clicks the back button, take them back here. And we're going to do that with a query parameter probably. So let's start there. So if we look at, say, let's look at this specific one. This is the exercise historical page. So if we go over here, this is the route for that. And kind of what we're saying is that we're going to have another query parameter here, which is going to be, I don't know exactly what we want to call it. You could call it like the referring page or something like that, but it seems a bit odd. I'm just going to call it back for now. And this is going to be optional. So by default, the back is going to be the way it works right now, the historical data page, right? So if I'm going to need to pass this back through here as well, back. And this could be like back or whatever the URL for the historical data page is, which is this /exercises, or not historical data. Yeah, anyway, the exercises list page. So I think with that, now if we actually look at the view for this page, we have this back button up here, and we can just replace this href with back. So now, if I go here, refresh the page, I get an error. Oh, right, I forgot to extract that. This back has to be put up here, or I could do query.back, I guess. That's fine. Query.back. Okay, so now, this should still work, of course. But if I do like and back equals /today, then when I click back, it should take me back to the today page. Just like that. So now we just need to actually pass that parameter through when we're calling these things where we want to change where you're going back to, if that makes sense. So for the historical page, the only particular case we need to do that is going to be the one we just looked at, where we're on the today page or any date page, notably, it could be yesterday, not today. So we can't just naively do today. That's going to, when the user clicks this, we need to include the right parameter. So that link is somewhere in here. Let's see if we could just find see all. Yeah. So we're actually going to just put a question mark back equals, and then I don't know if we exactly know the current URL from here. Obviously we could calculate that like client side in some JavaScript. And we know it's server side on the request object, but that's not necessarily sent into the route, or I mean the view here. What we could just do is like this, back equals like / plus, I think date. Is that, yeah, date. I think that should work. So now, if we're on today, let's, inspect this here, see what we get. So it's, back equals / it's not /today, it's actually like this specific day. So it should work, like bring us back to the 10th. Yeah. And I think we actually have a redirect setup too, where it's like if you try to go to the day that is today, that automatically gets redirected to today. So should be fine. And, if I go to a day in the past, like the 9th, and I add an exercise, and I click this, and then I click back, it should take me back to the 9th. Yeah, the correct day. Cool. So that's simple enough. Let's stage these changes. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other back button. So I think the only other back button, well, there might be two more. I think, so there's one in the settings page, obviously. And then I think if I go to edit an exercise, there's one here as well. The thing about this one is the only way you can ever get here is actually from the manage exercises page. So I don't think we really need to implement what we just did for this back button. The settings page, on the other hand, it's like always going to be, you know, you could click to it from any page because this link is always visible here on the navigation, on the header. So we're going to need something here as well, where it's like if I'm today, this actually works, I think, because it goes back to today by default. I click back, it takes me back to today. But, you know, say I'm on the 9th and I click, I don't know, it's interesting. Oh, it's because the arrow appears. Okay, it shifts it a little bit. If we're on the 9th and I click settings and then I click back, it's actually going to take me back to the 10th. So not the best. So we kind of need to fix this there too. And so let's do the same thing first of all for the actual settings method here. So this is like get settings. It seems that we don't even have any parameters being pulled in from any part of the body or anything in here. So let's just copy this from another route and we can do it. Or query. There's back. And this would be, let's just get rid of that. This is query is an object with back as a z.string. And that's going to be optional. Okay. So now we have that. We need to pass it into the page. So we could just do back is, I guess we can do the same thing where it's like back or / today. Normally there should always be a back if the person's not, like if they clicked on that settings link up here, but you never know, right? There's always a possibility that it's not sent through because it's optional and we don't really want to make it required. So we need some kind of default case here. Okay, so now we need to put this into the view. So over here, it would be the same thing where we just replace this with back. Okay, and now, so we need to edit the layout is going to be the thing now. So this settings page here is going to need to include that back query parameter. Oh. And what is it going to be set to then is the question. We need to know like the URL path, right? So kind of what I'm thinking is that this would be like plus current path, right? And what is this current path? Well, we don't really know that currently in the view. So because this is in the layout, we're going to need to add that in our view bag, which is used for every view rendering. So that would be in index maybe? No? I don't remember where I put it since we refactored things. Okay, here it is in router.ts. So we need to add something here where it's like current path. And that's going to be based on the request dot original URL. And I believe this original URL is going to be like the whole URL. Let's actually just do like a console.log of the original URL here. So now if I refresh the page, we can see, oh, so that is just the route. Interesting. And what's the URL? Refresh. It's also just /today. This contains only the URLs. So I think the idea with the original URL is that sometimes things mutate the URL for Express, like a middleware might mutate it. but the original URL will still reflect like what the original thing was. Now, the one thing is here, so say I do like in ASDF equals 1, 3. Doesn't really matter, just some query parameter. That's going to end up in the original route as well. So I feel like there's something kind of funny we can do here. So let's actually look at the settings here. We have settings back today, seems to work. If I click on settings, though, now you can see that it's starting to stack up those back query parameters in here. If I keep clicking on it, that's just going to get longer and longer. So we don't want that. So what we do want, though, is maybe other query parameters that are not back to be included, which is kind of a pain, actually. Like if we do const URL equals you know, let's just kind of do the poor man's approach here and get rid of everything that follows the question mark. So basically we're looking for just the path. So it would be like dot, I mean, we could just do dot replace. And we're going to replace question mark, which needs to be escaped in a regex, and then anything after that. Let's do dot star, because even just a question mark by itself, we want to replace. And then this goes to the end, which I think is a $sign. And we're going to replace that with an empty string. So now if I click settings, you know, it's not doing that thing where it's building an infinitely deep, like, I don't know what you would call it, chain of query parameters. Anyway. Okay, so now, you know, we're on the settings page. This is kind of weird though. We're on the settings page. You can click back and it's going to take you back to the settings page, but whatever. I'm okay with that edge case for now. So, but if we're on the today page, we go settings, go back, takes us back to today, manage exercises, settings, back, takes us back to manage exercises, etc. So that works well enough. And even if you're in like some deeply nested thing, like everything settings for this specific exercise, you could then go settings and then go back and get back to where you were. Okay. What else? Are there any other back buttons? No, just those three. Okay. So let's commit these changes. We're adding the current path to the view bag here. We are adding back as a thing. And here we're adding back as a thing too. And then layout. Looks good. Historical. Ref back. Settings, ref back. And today, passing in that back right there. Okay. We will call this allow back buttons to actually take you back where you were. Cool. I can check that off the list. Fix back buttons. And I can check it off down here as well. Okay, so now we've got some other things to fix here. Dark mode persistence might be a good thing to fix, actually. So kind of the issue here is like, I called it dark mode persistence, but it's really dark or light mode persistence. Like this uses the browser default. If I switch it to light mode, then that's fine. But then, you know, say I like click on a page, it's actually going to take me right back to dark mode again. So there's kind of two things that we could do here. One is we could have the dark light mode toggle be something that is associated with the user themselves in their settings page. Like you could have a thing here where it's like dark mode enabled by default or whatever. Or maybe I should say or we could have this button here actually persist that switch to light mode or to dark mode into the local storage for the browser. So it's basically like, even if the browser's default is dark mode, once you click this, it's going to have saved in the browser that when you're using this browser, you should be using light mode instead. I mean, it could also be stored in like a cookie or something, but local storage seems all right to me. Pardon me. Okay, so let's just do that too, because it's a nice little thing to fix as well. So what do we want to have happen here? So we have these buttons, and they're mutating this theme signal from Alpine.js. So what we probably want is like a signal effect thing where when that signal value changes, it writes it to local storage. And then when we populate the signal at the beginning, wherever that is, up here, we would need to check local storage as well in that logic, which might get a bit complicated. So we might want to pull that out into a helper function. But anyway, we'll get to that in a moment. First, let's actually start saving it to the store. So I think that's effect. Is there anything better specific for stores? I mean, you know, so there's like these Alpine stores, but that's not really what I'm talking about. I mean like the local storage. Don't think so. So probably just doing the X effect is going to be the way to go, I would think. And we will put that the same place that we have. Gosh, pardon me. I've got a frog in my throat. We'll put this in the same place that we have these other kind of X declarations related to theme. So here we're going to say X effect window local storage set, and we're going to call it like set theme, and that's going to be set to theme. Is that, I always need to check this, but let's I guess one easy way to do it here is if we open up the console and we do like window.local storage dot set. It's called set item. Okay. Dot set item. Okay. So now if we, I think we can see our local storage here, right? Local storage. Yeah. So if we actually refresh the page, the theme is set to dark right off the bat. If we click this, it'll be set to light. If I refresh the page, it's actually going to be set to dark again though, because we haven't updated this part up here. Basically the default value for the theme. So I could just make this more complicated. So kind of what I could say is like, if there is you know, so it'd be like window dot local storage or local storage dot get item set theme. And if that's set, we want to always use that first. So it would be like that or this other stuff. right? And I think this might need to be in parentheses. I'm not totally sure, so we'll just do it. Okay, so now if I refresh this, if I do light, and now if I refresh it again, it should stay as light. And if I click around, it's going to stay light. And then if I click this, it's going to switch to dark again. So one thing is, like right now, the theme is dark, which matches the default browser mode, right? If the user now switches their default browser mode to light, they probably are going to expect that this is also going to switch back to light alongside it automatically. And basically what that's telling me in my head is that we probably only need to actually persist this value when it differs from the default theme of the browser. So what that is telling me then is that I probably want to actually take this whole thing and move it into another function. So let's actually do that here now. So in our main.js, we're going to export function browser default, or just call it browser theme. And we can get rid of the parentheses. So this is going to be down here, browser theme. And I might also add export function save theme. And it would be like new theme string. I guess I shouldn't put that because this is JavaScript. And then we'll say like if new theme equals browser theme, then we're going to do window.localstorage.clear, not clear. I want to like delete one item, remove item, set theme. Otherwise, we're going to assign it. Okay. And I'll just do one more function here where it's like export function, just call it theme. And this is going to return window.localstorage.getItem set theme or browser theme. Okay, makes sense. So we have, a function to get the current browser theme, which doesn't even really need to be exported, but I will anyway. We have theme, and we have save theme. And so now we can actually use those to make our view a little more readable here. So this theme is going to be window._set.theme. And this one is going to be window._set.saveTheme. Theme. Okay, I think that should work. So now, let's refresh the page here. So our theme is dark. Let's actually just delete that for now. So if I refresh the page, and maybe click around to make it a little more obvious, it's like we're not setting that dark theme key anymore. If I switch it to light, oh, what the heck? It's not even showing up here. Theme is not defined. Theme. Why is it not defined? Are we recompiling okay? Yeah. Oh, so let's refresh the page for a moment. Okay, cannot read properties of undefined reading theme. So the window._set is not populated yet. Because this main, because I guess we need to do the alpine.start kind of at the bottom of the main, maybe. Interesting. Let's actually do that then. So if we take this alpine start and we move it all the way down here, that should fix it, right? Yeah, so now if we go to, well, we don't even really need to check, but we can check local storage. If we click this, it should switch it to light. Didn't save it though. So now if I refresh, it's going back to dark. So why isn't that saving it? It should be using save theme. Oh, because we don't have the value here. Derp. New theme. Okie doke. So now, if I click this, saves it. And, I can click around in light mode, doing my thing. And then I can switch it to dark mode later. And, it just deletes the value. Okay, seems pretty good. I think with this, well, let me write my commit message first. So persist theme preference in local storage. Yep. So I think with this, we probably don't need to add this as a setting on the user as well. We'll just leave it like this. In theory, the user might also want to use different themes in different browsers and stuff too. I don't really know. Ideally, you would support both, but we don't need to spend the time on that. So let's check another thing off our list. Dark mode persistence. Cool. Okay. And I also have this thing on here, which is dark mode responsive view fixes. Let's just go through and see if there's anything to fix. So like on each page, if we look at it in dark mode responsive view, I guess we can kind of test both of them at once. Things are looking all right on this page, I think. If we click that, that was weird. Anyway, if we click that, like this looks okay too. That, I think there's supposed to be, there's like if I switch this to light mode, yeah, that icon is not working right though. That's one thing. Where's that coming from? An input. Okay, let's look at the Bulma component for that. Type text, password, email, or telephone. So it doesn't actually support type date, which might be part of the problem. So if I were to, let's see, just out of curiosity, if I were to add a color thing on here, like, has text gray, or let's say has text primary, that'll stand out. Does that actually, affect the icon there? No, it just affects the text. So what affects the color of that icon, I wonder? Maybe in input date. Does this tell me about styling it, I wonder? Controlling input size. Input date icon color. Let's see if Stack Overflow has something. Input color scheme dark. Really? Okay, we got some crazy some crazy options here. Let's just try this for a moment. So if I guess go in here and do like style, color, theme, dark. Is that gonna like invert the text color of the icon? No, didn't do anything. Yeah, as I thought. Oh, it's color scheme. Okay, color scheme. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that actually does it. And so what we actually are going to do here is just put this with an X bind. And the color scheme is going to be theme. And so we're just going to return like this. Right? Yeah. So now like that's dark. And if I switch it to light, it becomes light, dark, light, dark, light. Okay, cool. So that fixes that. Oh, and we don't want the has text primary anymore. I do intend to actually use the primary color more, but not quite yet. Okay. Cool. So now let's look at the next page. If we go to manage exercises, this looks like this. If we switch it to dark, looks like that. Seems fine. If I unresponsify it, you can hover over them and actually see that too. So if we go to look at one of these historical pages, this is looking pretty good too. So this lower table is a bit of an issue maybe for responsive view. The look back is also a bit of an issue maybe. Nothing with dark mode though. If we go back and we go to the edit page, this seems fine. Switch to light mode, switch to dark mode. Go back. If we go to the settings page, seems fine. Switch it. Yep. It's really hard to see my cursor when the app is in dark mode. If I go to the manual, seems fine too, really. These, like if I switch this to light mode, yeah, those do update. Cool. Yeah, Okay. So let's fix that responsive issue that we saw, because I don't see anything else relating to the dark mode situation. So we were looking like here, this, probably both of these tables. You know, it's hard to tell. I don't really know. Yeah, so like you can scroll and see the rest. So maybe that's not that big of a deal, actually. Usually you wouldn't really have this many things in there anyway, this many parameters. The alternative is we could have like a div around the table specifically that implemented like a horizontal scroll just for that table. But I don't know if we really want to do that. What does that feel like? Let's try it out. If we go to historical.pug, so we've got the table down here. And for now, we can just add this as a style. And, you know, we can adjust it later if we want. So, overflow. I wonder if this is going to work right on the table. X auto. So now it's like, yeah, it's not really working on the table. What if I just change this to scroll? Still doesn't really work on the table. Probably need to put it on a div above the table, if I were to guess. And now, yeah, so now it's got its own scroll bar there. So you can scroll that. You know, I mean, that feels pretty good, I think. And if we switch to one where it doesn't have that many params, there's no scroll bar, and dragging it doesn't do anything. Okay, that seems all right. And I will just leave this as a style on the div. I'm not going to make a class for that. But I am also going to put the exact same div up here as well, in case this table needs to scroll. And that should be fine, right? Yeah, cool. Just out of curiosity, if I open the everything again, does this table up here have scrolling? No, it's not scrolling. If we did add some more columns here, though, then it would start to scroll, which is why I wanted to add that. I feel like we could also use a little spacing between these tables. So in Bulma, there's a section thing. Where is that? Layout section. And I think this just kind of like puts some padding on it. So we could use that to kind of separate out these. Like if I made this a section, for example, what is that going to look like? Okay, so now it did put some padding around it. Unfortunately, it's enough padding that now that table is scrolling too. Which I'm not a huge fan of. It also feels like maybe a bit of wasted horizontal space there with this, you know, vertical line of emptiness when you're on mobile. If I'm not on mobile, that'll probably look good though. Yeah. And if we did like a dot section down here as well, then they would kind of line up and, you know, sort of look good more, maybe. But really, I just want some like vertical padding. So maybe instead of using section, I'll just do something a little less opinionated, like dot. I think you can do like dot my2. Isn't that a thing? Kind of like with Tailwind. No, it's not doing it. Let's see. So if I look at spacing here, yeah, so it should be doing it, right? my2. Let's see. Inspect. Okay, it is doing it. It's just not very much. Let's do like MY4 or MB. Well, let's do MY4. Doesn't really matter. Actually, yeah, let's do MB. So if we do like MB8, or I don't know, actually, if we look at these spacings, I don't think they're like linear. Like we probably want 4 or 5. Let's do 4. Yeah, MB4, MB4. And then for the, like for these things, we could also do like .mb4. Okay, so did that do anything? Not seeing much spacing. I guess maybe that's just how much it is. I thought it would be more than that. Let's try 5, MB5. It doesn't need to be too much. We just need some visual spacing between these tables so that when we're looking at them like this, they're not like, you see, they're still kind of just like looking like one table. So let's try doing MB6. Yeah, okay, so now there's a little bit more, that's a little bit more something, more spacing. Cool. Okay, so that's okay. And then we want to, should also look fine like this, yeah. You know, I don't know if that one really needs the bottom spacing at all. What happens if I get rid of that? Yeah, that's fine. Don't need the bottom spacing. And then we can fix the look back thing. So the problem here is the look back is expanding with this aligned like on the left here when it should be aligned like on the right, if that makes sense. Because when we're in this mode and you click look back, it's like it's sticking off the edge of the page. And since this is always going to be on the right of the UI, it should be better to expand it out to the left anyway. That should always work. So let's see, let's find that bit. So that's this drop down thing here. Probably if we look at the drop down thing in Bulma, there's going to be some way to control that. So we want, yeah, right aligned. So drop down dot is right. Yeah. Is right. Right. And now if I click it, yeah, it opens up that way. And if I'm in responsive view and I click it, it opens up like that. Cool. Easy fix. So what is this one? What were we changing here again? Oh yeah, okay, fix dark mode rendering of date input rendering. Okay, and then we'll also have this, which is adjust historical page to look better in mobile view. Okay. Okie doke. So now we've got some, we went through all of our pages and it doesn't seem like there's any really glaring issues with the dark mode, light mode stuff or the mobile desktop stuff. So that's great. We do have these charts, which you can see like they're a little bit not centered, like because it has this padding or whatever it is, margin on the left, it's actually doesn't quite have space to fit anything on the right. So it would be nice if it didn't do that. I don't know. Like if we actually go to the historical page again, so each of these charts is inside a cell and then inside a box. I mean, so in theory, like if I get rid of that box, it should then be properly centered on the page, right? It's kind of hard to tell. But let's inspect it and see. Yeah, so now it's kind of properly centered, but we sort of miss maybe that shadowing effect. If I put a box there, what's that going to do? So now it's actually still properly centered, but it's smaller, which is a bit annoying, if I'm honest. If I close this, you know, it's not too bad though. At least they're clearly distinguished. If I get rid of the box, I mean, it's slightly bigger. But I kind of prefer it like this. Let's do it like this. Okay, so I might actually put that in the last commit as well. So I'm going to amend the last commit. Cool. Okay. What now? Well, let's look at the notes again. So we did our dark mode responsive view fixes. I don't think there's anything left for that really. This dark mode to user level settings, I'm going to move down into my ideas. That's not something we're necessarily going to do. These two things are kind of like tech debt issues I'm not too worried about at the moment. So let's do a little bit more of the style UI adjustment stuff. So one of the things that I kind of want to see is how we can incorporate like a little more color. Right now, obviously, everything's mostly black and white. There's some color here and there, like the links are colored, obviously. You know, like that's colored. All of this is just coming from the Bulma themes. I feel like it might be nice to try using the primary color and maybe changing the primary color later as well to like something that I actually like, because I'm not a huge fan of the sort of teal or whatever primary color that Bulma uses. Turquoise, I guess. You know, I'm talking about this color here. But for now, let's actually just start using that color. And then I think we can change that with the CSS variable later if we want to. So like an example of what I'm thinking is like this, if this here used that color in our brand, I feel like that would be a nice thing. And maybe even in the background. So like on this layout here, I've got this navbar brand. And this other thing also under the brand. I don't really know what that, like if I inspect this now, so the brand is that whole thing. And the A is just that bit. So really I want that A thing here to have some stuff. And what I actually could do maybe, I kind of want to see if this works. So if I'm in my set brand thing here, I should be able to actually reference Bulma CSS variables in here, I think. If we go, let's see, where would I see that? CSS variables. Yeah. So what are the variables? Color palettes, Bulma primary, I guess. Like if I were to do that, so say I say background color var Bulma primary. What's it got going on now? So set brand. Why is it not working? It's being overridden by this. That's what it would look like. Navbar link. So that's just like a more specific selector, I guess, is why that's being picked first. If I uncheck that selector, that's fine. And it seems okay when I click on it too. If I am like this, if I hover over it, let's just do this for a moment. So if I hover over it, it's fine. If I click on it, it's fine. I think that might be fine. Little splash of color. We're going to be adding more things like that around the place. I don't really like that I have to do the important, but I don't want to have to like put in the effort to make a more specific selector either. So, and I think this is selector specificity, not order of inclusion, right? If we actually look at where is this? The layout. Yeah, our main is defined after. So yeah, I'm just going to have the important on there. That's okay. It's annoying to me when libraries do it, but when I'm doing it myself, I'm like, that's fine. Okay. So what else? I wouldn't mind adding, well, so one of the things I was thinking is like for this part here, these settings texts, or, like the title text for each page is a place that there could be some color. But I think that also might look a little odd. So let's just give it a shot and see what that looks like, for example. I think that would be in the page, like manage exercises, let's say. It would be in this title. We can see if there's a built-in way to change that first. Title, subtitle, title, subtitle. The other thing is I don't really like the title font, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't know if it's because it's so bold or if it's actually using a different font. Seems like it's probably not using a different font. Enter. What the heck? What about this one? Yeah, same font. And what font is this? How can I see which one I ended up with here? Like I see the list of all of them. Oh, here we are, rendered font. Sego UI. Okay. Fine. I guess I'm not going to change that for now. I do feel like if this was colored, it might just look not good. Is kind of my concern. Let's see, if we grab this, it has text primary color. Yeah, that's like a little too, I mean, the other thing is what happens when we switch to dark mode. So dark mode, this is not right. But I think we can fix that. Like if I do this dot set brand, then I could have another background color here. And this would be something else, right? Like Bulma primary dark or something. I'm definitely going to need all of these color pages open for reference. Yeah, Bulma primary dark. Yes. I mean, it's... So the other thing is we need to probably adjust the actual color. So this should be Bulma primary invert, I think. And this would be dark invert. Oh, that's color. Yeah, so now it's like that. If we switch to light, it's like that. Seems pretty good. Except that should be primary. I thought that was not quite right. Well, it looks looks exactly the same. Just still black. But it looks good with black. I just want to make sure it's actually pulling in the variable here. Yeah, it's pulling it in. Okay, cool. But this manage exercises here, it doesn't feel quite right. Now I could maybe have that use a block as well, but then it's going to be kind of misaligned and confusing. So let's not do that. Let's just get rid of this for now. One of the things I was thinking we could do for another splash of color is this create new exercise thing down here. I think should be primary as well, for example. So like on the today page, if we go down here, what's going on? So we've got this control, horizontal field, add new set. So the question is, do we want this whole thing to be like in a block of its own of some kind? Like, you know, you could have this in a notification, for example. Oh, that's not even the right page. Here, like this. So that could be like in a new notification. And I actually kind of like that. But if I were to make that like is primary, then, you know, it's a bit much. Now I could also do like is dark. And if I do responsive view, see, it's not aligned with that though is the thing here. And I do like that one a lot better. So I might try to do something here where I'm going to do like is primary I don't know what to call this. Dynamic. Sure. Is primary dynamic. And this is going to be a class that's actually going to change the foreground and background that we're going to define ourselves up here. Like is primary dynamic. So we could do this. And, you know, I don't really know actually. So let's just, first of all, make that is primary. And it looks like that. Now, if I were to switch our actual browser theme to light mode and refresh this, see, now it's actually a different color. So it's kind of an interesting thing where the Bulma, and if I switch it to dark mode, it's staying at that different color. The Bulma things are looking at the browser's setting and dynamically shifting their values, I think. Like if we look over here at dark mode, it's got these like, it's changing potentially some variables based on this. Oh, but it also updates it based on that. Okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense because everything else is updating. I don't know why some of these colors seem like they're not. Anyway, not sure. But that's kind of why I'm making these like custom classes here. Actually, like say we have dot is primary dynamic. And that would be like this exact thing. And then this exact thing down here. And let's take off light mode before, I don't know what happens, before my eyes start to die. Okay, so now we have that and we need to actually add this class again. Is primary dynamic. Right, so now that's looking like this. And really this should be like, let's see. If we add like a star on here, I'm curious to see what this does now. Is it going to fix that text color there? Yeah. It doesn't really fix, well, it does fix that, but not in a way that I'm a huge fan of. I could just do like label, of course, and then that's going to be fixed. But that only applies to this one particular case. And really, I mean, the thing that I want to be colored is actually not even this whole navigation or notification to begin with, but actually the select, which is the one thing that's not colored. I don't think the notification is the right choice here. What I do think, well, let's just see if we have a good option for forms, select, for coloring these. Yeah, so you can color them. So like I could color that dot is primary, assuming I can actually get into my, it's like this, right? Class is primary. And then like if I look at the mix in for this, I kind of need to use this like and attributes thing on the select. Yeah, it's in the right spot, I think. So now, what don't you like about that? Oh, I think it's just like that, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so now that's actually, kind of cool looking. If I switch it to light mode, it's not as standoutish, it seems. But that's all right. And then we could have, I mean, I'm trying to think like, do we want this text to also be that color, the add new set text? I think it's kind of fine as is. But it could be, like now if we add like a dot, say a box around this instead of a notification. And, so I guess kind of what I'm thinking, I don't want this to take up the full width for starters. of the page. It should just be as wide as it needs to be to fit the form elements in it, right? So why is it taking up the full width? It could be the field body is just, yeah, so there's nothing insisting that it is the full width. It's just a block element, and then inside it's like flex split out. So if I just tried this style inline block, I'm curious if this is gonna, or sorry, style display inline block. Yeah, okay, so now it's actually smaller, but it's not, now it's too small. So what's going on now? Because it should be fine with expanding more to fit the text. Like this is flex grow 1. And then this one is flex grow 5 and flex shrink 1. I mean, it does say flex shrink 0. So I don't really know exactly why it's shrinking. Okay. Well, in any case, I'm actually going to not have this be a style like this, but have it be like a dot primary box. Let's call it that. Let's just see what this is like. So if I am up here, instead of is primary dynamic, I'm going to try this primary box. And we're just going to kind of see what this looks like. Oh yeah, and I also need this to be display. Let's just do the, well, let's actually just do like a width on it for now. Like width of 20 rems or 20 ems. How does that look? It's a bit too short maybe. If I did like 30 ems, now how's that look? Okay, so I'm not a huge fan of this. So the problem here is that this one is going to be growing at 5 times the rate of this label. So if I want the label to actually be wide enough, it's like I've got to have the other thing be way too wide. And this is coming from the is horizontal, probably, right? Yeah, field label, field body. And if I, mobile view it, it's kind of a little too big. Yeah, well, one thing we could actually do here is not have it be horizontal form at all. That might be an interesting way to do it. So like if we just do, like what is this horizontal field mix-in actually doing here? This. So instead we would just do like, we'd take this field label thing and put it here. Right? And this would be add new set. Something like that. And get rid of this. Okay, that's clearly not quite right. Let's actually look at the docs here. So if we're doing like a form thing, there's like field. So div class field. Oh, right, the field label needs to be underneath the field for one thing. And then there is no field label for these. There's just field and then label. Okay, so now that's like that. And that I kind of like. And then this, what if we do is full width here? Is full width. Yeah, something like that. And if we switch to dark mode, it's like that. Looks a lot cooler in dark mode, if you were to ask me. Okay. But anyway, that seems okay. And if I do it in mobile, it's like that. Yeah. I mean, we'll see if it grates on us or grows on us, right? As we use the app a little bit. How does it feel? Kind of the other thing I was thinking was this one here. The date picker could maybe use some color too. But I worry then that might be like too many elements with colors on the page. So let's just skip that for now. Beyond that, so this is the today page. If we go manage exercises here, like we could do the same thing for this create exercise business. In fact, I might sort of copy this a little bit. So if we're creating a new exercise, this is no longer going to be a horizontal field. It's going to be just a regular field. And then this is going to be exercise. We could call this create new exercise. And then we've got our, so get rid of all this. So now it's kind of like that. This one would be like dot is primary. Yep. And if I switch away from dark mode, yep. Back to dark mode, yep. And then same with this down here, this would be like dot is primary, I guess. And really, I want this to be probably just either right next to the other one, which might be like this. Okay, it's still below it. What if I put it in the same control? It's still not quite right. I'm pretty sure there's a way to kind of combine these things together, like put the submit button right next to the field. Like one of these types of things. Has add-ons. Like this. Yeah, so has add-ons modifier on the field controller. So this would be like your dot field. Well, I guess we don't even need that anymore, right? And then this dot field would have dot has add-ons. That doesn't look quite right. As add-ons. Let's see what this looks like. Still not quite right. So let's look at this again. So we have field with add-ons, and then underneath that we have controls, two separate controls. So two separate controls. Is that the difference? Yeah. And then this, you know, well, it's still not quite right because it's not using the, like if you look here, it's like getting rid of the rounding between the two elements. Whereas over here, it's not getting rid of the rounding for some reason, like right there. I don't know if you can see that. Let me look at this control mix-in and see what that's doing here. Is that doing anything fancy? Because I don't really need... Yeah, so that's kind of doing some more fancy stuff than what I actually want. But what I could do is I could do control has, or class has add-ons, get rid of this field. Is that, that's not going to work. No. Yeah. Let's just switch these to like just a dot control. Not using the mix-in. We don't need it. And it's causing problems. Okay, so now you can see it's like properly got the, you know, it's not rounding the borders where the two elements are touching. But this also, you know, we could just call this plus or something because the button is too, it was too long. And really, I mean, I could, because this is a input type submit, the value has to be text, but I could also do, like if I just did button, what is that going to do? Button, dot button, get rid of the type submit and the value. And this would just be, let's say plus. Oh. The plus is, oh yeah, okay. Just do it like this. Plus. Okay, so now is it going to still do it? Like if I do 1, 2, 3 and click plus? Yeah. Even though it's a button, it's still submitting the form. So that's fine. And then now we can actually put an icon in here, I think. So let's look at our tabular icons. And, you know, maybe there's like a new type of thing, is what I'm thinking, instead of just putting a plus in there. Like, I guess I could try searching. If I search for like create, like this plus, you know, I mean, it's pretty obvious. Maybe something like this would be a little better. Let's just do this one for now. So that's just like icon. It would be like plus, icon, plus. And I guess I should use double quotes for that, plus. Right? Okay, so now it is an icon, but it's kind of wonky. I look at this, so I might just do this like and attributes here. And I could do the same thing here. Or no, I have to do it like that. And attributes, and attributes, yeah. So then if I wanted to, where am I now? Here. I could do like class is large. I'm curious like what this does. Nothing. It does nothing, okay. If we look at this icon here, so we have the is large, it's just not doing anything. Well, rather than spend too long trying to figure that out, let's just call it create for now. I'm sure there's a way to get those icons aligned within the button, but if we're just going to make the icon be a plus anyway, I don't know if there's a whole lot of point. Okay, so now we have this create new exercise thingy. If I switch to light mode, looks fine. Cool. Yeah, I'm still not a huge fan with the way that this list table thing is with these buttons, but I'm not going to change that at the moment. Okay, and if I go mobile view, it's looking good there. And, we fixed the width of the box. It should be the same as it is on the today page, I think. Yeah, I think so, right? Yeah. And it's nice to have it fixed width because we know what's going to be in it. You know what I mean? We don't need this to be resizable. We're not worried about like there being a bunch of text in this label that like goes way off and has to like scroll or, wrap because we're putting the stuff in there. It's not like the exercise names where it's like you could have a really long exercise name. Although I guess the person would have to type that in here. So it's kind of like that, but. Okay, so that's fine. We got some colors there. Like if we're here, the export thing maybe could be colored, but I'm not going to do that. I don't think I need to color anything on the settings page. Or really the manual page. This already feels busy enough. And yeah, like this, yeah. Okay. Seems fine for now. Do we want to try coloring this? Maybe I'll just give it a shot. So like on the today page, I don't know. I think I'm not going to because I don't want to have to figure out how to color this icon. And it's kind of just not going to match. So we'll just leave it as it is. So let's actually make sure we're using all these classes that I was experimenting with. Like set brand we're using. Primary box we're using. And primary box label I guess we're also using. I guess I should have the equivalent for light mode. This would just be primary invert like that, I guess. Right? So now light mode, it's still black. It's not like it changed anything, but now it's consistent. Okay, fine. And I guess I can get rid of that illustration comment on there too. And then, yeah, cleaning that up, adding that attributes thing. We're not actually even going to use that, so I'm not going to commit that. And this, let's get rid of that empty line. Let's open the file, get rid of the empty line. Cool. Add some usages of primary color. Cool. And especially in the dark mode, I actually don't hate this color. The more I'm like kind of looking at it, it's a little bit growing on me. But just out of curiosity, if I wanted to use a different color, I think I could do something where it's like root Bulma primary dark Let's just set it to red, something very obviously different. And then that, yeah, so that is actually going to apply to those things. The problem is there's a lot of like computed variables based on that are not changing. So like the Balmer primary invert is not automatically being recalculated based on the primary color. I think. At least it looks like that's how it's working. And the problem with that, I mean, kind of the way I think the Balmer color palettes work is you sort of have the primary color and then all these like derivatives. But it only works if you're like changing the primary color in your actual SAS, if you want to have the derivatives update automatically. So it might be a bit of a pain for us to change this without pulling in a SAS pipeline or overwriting every single variable, which sounds like a pain. So for now, we'll just stick with the main primary color. Okay. What other UI improvements could we do? A couple things I was thinking of with this page, actually. So we've got these buttons here, right? So let's add another set here where it's like 2 params, say. So we've got these buttons. You know, this one opens this like little pop-up thing. And this one, so that's kind of interesting. I guess that makes sense. And this one deletes the set, which also reloads the page. So, which really that doesn't need to reload the page. That's another thing we could fix at some point. But anyway, what I was going to say is, so this is based on like a grid layout. And if we actually inspect this, you can kind of see that grid, right? And if we view it in mobile view, it's like this is why it's a grid, because we want these things to be aligned in mobile view. But let's actually just add one param set. This is basically the smallest set you can get that has a parameter, right? But it's still taking up 2 lines in the mobile view because you've got the exercise selector and then you've got the single parameter. Obviously, if you do one that has 0 parameters, which I don't actually even have a test example for, let's go ahead and make that. I can't see my cursor in dark mode in responsive view. Okay, manage exercises, 0 params. And just don't check anything off. We go back to the today page and add that one. You can see that's what that looks like. And if we go responsive mode, that one actually fits on one line. Okay, so what I was thinking is I kind of want these buttons to be more up by the actual exercise select, not after all the parameters. And if I put them right here, it's going to make this select too small fitting inside that grid square. But we don't want to break out of the grid. So what I'm going to try to do is merge the first 2 cells of the grid to include both the select and the buttons, if that makes sense. So let's see what that would look like. If I go to the today page, you know, we've got this cell here with these controls, and then I would take this other cell basically and put that up here instead for starters. So now you can see that's kind of like that. The spacing on that's wonky. Not sure what's up with that. I wonder if that could be fixed by doing it like this. Yeah, kind of. Okay, so that's okay. But then we're still kind of not really in the grid layout. And what I kind of want to do to help with that is, let's just see if we can actually find what I'm looking for here. So this is a fixed grid. Let's look at the Balma docs for fixed grid. What we want to do is have one cell take up 2 cells worth of space. With maybe like this, like is call span 2. Let's just copy that, is call span 2. And then get rid of this cell. Okay, so now that is working, except that the everything, or I mean the drop down here is taking up all of this space. If I get rid of the is full width, it's still, okay, so actually it's not so much that it's taking up all the space as much as it's like a block element. So it's automatically getting put on a new line is what it looks like here. So we've got this, field control. Maybe this buttons thing needs to actually be inside the control as well. I feel like we're kind of needing to do the same thing that we did over here, where we have add-ons and we don't use a control component. So if we did that, instead of using dot control here, we would have like dot field and then dot control and then that, and then there would be like another dot control, and this would be dot has add-ons, right? Am I doing this right? Kind of. Very much kind of. And then in here, like what if that was just like a button? And then this one was also like just a button. Okay, so there's a problem here where, oh, maybe that also needs a control, maybe. Yeah, okay, so that's looking good. Kind of, of course. So if I actually got rid of this icon, for example, and just put a text, is that going to fix this horizontal spacing thing? Yeah, so this is the same issue we ran into before, where it's like, by using icons, it's kind of messing up the way the buttons are rendered. But this also looks pretty weird, to be honest. And this, Okay, well, we figured out the cell business. Let's go back to our form. I don't know, it feels like just a lot of wrangling the framework here, but I guess that's life when you're using a framework anyway. So we want this thing to be expanded like that. So control is expanded. Yeah, okay. So that's this is kind of what I was picturing, except, these buttons don't look good. Yeah, now they look even worse. So what is like if I look back at this again, I mean, this has a control and then a button, class button, like that. And I mean, it seems fine. Control has add-ons. I mean, the one thing I see is it's using a paragraph tag for some reason. I don't know if that shouldn't matter, right? Yeah, it doesn't seem like it matters. And if I get rid of this one, it's kind of looking better. I guess that's pretty much how it's supposed to be. So kind of one of the things that's getting me here though is like I don't obviously like how it's like not like the color doesn't match this one at all. This white, like for some reason is white instead of gray. In light mode, it looks a little better, but still pretty weird. I do like this placement for those buttons more though. The other issue is, you know, if I were to actually put those icons back in, which I have now forgot what they are. So let's look at our history here. Chart line and then X. So this one is chart line and then this one is X. Then we're going to get that issue where that, you know, it's not aligned. It's not the right height. And that, I don't know exactly why. I might look at the icon thingy here, the icon docs. Maybe I'll open the button docs too. So icon, you can combine an icon with text. That's good to know actually. I might use that. You can use colors to change the color. That's nice. You can do, okay, is medium. I'm curious if that helps at all. Like if I add class is medium. I know I tried something a lot like this earlier, but I'm just going to try it again here. And then in the actual mix in for the icon, we need to like do that and attributes thing. I'm just going to copy that from somewhere here. Yeah. So now what does that look like? Looks like nothing. So it's like these are not, even though it has the is medium on the icon, it's not actually changing anything. Right? Oh, because it has to go on the span class icon thing. Maybe. Let's see what the button one says. Stakes to do loading with icons. So it is including the span class icon underneath. So that's probably the problem here. Let's fix that. So under here, we would need like a span.icon and then the icon. Yeah. Okay. So now that's, you know, looking better, except for the weird outlining. So if we were to fix that, I kind of feel like we can't really use the outline display for this. So we could use like text, maybe, like is text. Let's just see what that looks like. Is text. So that gets rid of the border around them altogether. And it includes an underline, which just is weird with the icons. So that's obviously not right. What if I just did like is dark, just out of curiosity? Okay. See, so that actually looks pretty good to me. I think that's not bad. And like this is dark. What if that's is black? Oh, that's not even a thing. Is black? Oh, because it's inverted because it's dark mode? If I switch it to light, is that going to turn black? Yeah. Okay, so that's not really what I want. I want actually is light, right? Like is white. Is that right? Is that what I'm seeing here? So this should be is white? No, because white is still white, of course. Wait. Why is that? So this button has is white on it, right? Oh, but I also have is dark on it still because of this thing. Let's just get rid of that for a moment. Okay, so now that it looks like that, which is definitely not right. If I do is light, just out of curiosity, that looks good in light mode. Yeah, okay, so let's do kind of like what we had here. So if the theme is dark, it's going to be is dark actually. And if it's light, it's going to be is light, right? So now like in light, it's like that. If I switch it to dark, it's like that. Seems fine. And then the X is also going to need, if I just get rid of the is dark, it's like a bit too in your face in dark mode, but it's fine in light mode. So again, we're just going to put in one of these JavaScript class deals of, you know, if theme is dark, then do is dark. Otherwise, I don't even know if we need the is light on it really. Actually, I do like that better. And then dark is like that, light's like that. Yeah, I feel like this looks a lot better now. So, you know, we got those away from where they were kind of just shoved at the end. One sec, just got another spammer in the chat. Let me ban that person. Yeah, okay, see ya. Okay, so the thing I like about this is now, if we look at it like here, so I don't know, it just looks better. You don't have those buttons kind of like hanging out at the end of the row. They're actually like associated with a form control a little bit. And, you know, for the everything one, it's like it does roll over here to a new line, but it was doing that before anyway, but it was just the buttons on the new line, which also looked really weird. This seems a little bit better. And we've got plenty of space for, you know, if somebody has a longer exercise name. In the mobile view, or I said mobile, but click dark mode. In the mobile view, I like it because each set is like it's got the exercise name or whatever at the top of the set and then the parameters below it. So it's kind of like got this logical structure to it there as well. Okay. Cool beans. So we'll keep that. And yeah, looking good in dark mode too. Okay, so let's commit this. Basically, we are oh, and one thing I should confirm here, this isn't going to, like if I click that, yeah, it's not actually doing anything. Okay, that's good. I want to make sure it's not like submitting a form, you know? Yeah, okay. Okay. Fine. So we will call this move buttons in, or move set buttons. Not sure what to call it, whatever. Move set buttons alongside exercise name. Okay. Pretty good. What other changes do we want to make here? So right. One thing I was thinking, so like say we, you know, like this, in theory, there should be some data in here when I click on that. So that's okay. But if I have one here, like the 0 params, that doesn't have any historical data at all, when I click on that, it comes up with this thing here. What I'd really prefer is to just have this button not be clickable in that case. Like we don't need the user to be able to interact with it at all. So if we were to do that, so that's this button here. So we only want this button to be enabled in a certain case. And I think if we go down here, we'll be able to find that case. Has historical. And really, I don't even need this check here anymore, do I? I could get rid of this. And that. And then up here, yeah, I'm just going to get rid of that. And then up here, we would be like disabling these button when has historical is true. And that's not something that's going to change client side. So we don't need to bind it at all. We can just do like disabled equals not has historical. And let's put a comma in there. What? Undefined is not an object. Okay, so like this would actually, I would have to do like if as historical, then we render this div. And it's still not actually going to be shown unless it's expanded, but if historical is false, it's not even going to have the possibility of expanding. It's not going to be rendered at all. So now, like for this one, you can see that button is just disabled, and that's good. I also feel like this add new set thing, like if let's do it with 1 param here. So here there's something interesting where it's like these actually have a bit of a border, but the 0 params one is not for some reason. It doesn't have a margin on the bottom or something. I don't know if that's just because it doesn't have any inputs. Like maybe that margin is coming from the inputs. Let's take a look. Input. Where is it coming from? The grid itself, computed. Margin bottom, bar, Bowman block spacing. That's it, right? Yeah. So why is this one not getting that? Why is this grid not getting that margin bottom? I don't know. So if we look again at this one here, that's coming from fixed grid, not last child. Okay. So that's not the last child because there's the history expanded thing. I think I see the problem. But when we got rid of the history expanded thing, all of a sudden it is the last child and we don't have that padding anymore. So I think we actually want that padding. And I'm going to just do it with a class. So in fact, I might just do it with a style on here. So like this dot fixed grid here, I'll just do a class where it's like set grid. And then up here we'll do dot set grid, and margin bottom is going to be that. Margin bottom is that. So that's always going to be true, whether or not there's something after it. And we do like that better than not having any spacing at all. It's important to have spacing between these. If anything, we might want a little more. I don't know. We might want a little more, or we could maybe put in some more color here to differentiate it better. If we actually change this select here to be like is primary, what is that going to look like? So now that's like that. And if I go like this, it's a little bit distinguished now. You see what I mean? If I switch to dark mode, it's a lot more distinguished now. But it also looks a little funny. I kind of like it though, actually. I kind of like it, except for the buttons part. You know, if I were to make this one is primary too, I wonder what that's going to do. See, I mean, that's kind of slick with it. If I go like this, so that's really weird. Don't like that when it's disabled. But I do like those. You know, I kind of like it like this. Just need to fix that. And how would I fix that? I don't know. Let's see. So like the disabled state, that's like a specific state, right? Disabled. I mean, or I wonder what the is static would look like. Is static. Just checking here. Not really any better. And what if I did dot is active? Does that like explicitly disable the disablingness? No, that's something else. What is active? Is that like when you're about to click on it? Hmm. Okay, so let's just do this, and then we could also maybe have something where we not sure. Like we want to override that behavior for light mode. For dark mode, we don't really care. We could also just not render the button at all if there's nothing to click. I wonder what that would look like. Like if I did a like if has historical, then we include the control. You know, it works this way, but it's not quite. Usually I like to have the things disabled here. So if it is disabled and we're in dark mode, it's fine. When we're in light mode, it's too obvious. So what if I added like is white here? It's not really changing it at all. Because of this is primary disabled. Yeah, well, for now, let's just hide it because that works. And wait, what am I doing here? I don't know. Yeah, like that. And then we can get rid of the disabled flag here too. Okay, so now that's just gonna not be there if it doesn't need to be there. Kind of, you know, a little bit too much color on this page now maybe, but I actually like this. It makes it a lot easier to distinguish between when one set ends and another one begins. You could also just like add more spacing, right? More margin between the sets. But the more margin you add, the fewer you can fit on the screen. Not necessarily that big of a deal, but I like things where it's a little more compact. So if you can use colors to kind of do that distinguishing instead of using spacing, you can make your design a little more compact, right? Yep, and yep. So let's call this let's just call it like adjust or improve. We can compliment ourselves, right? Improve rendering of, or improve appearance of set exercise select. That's basically what we're doing. And we are using that set grid class, right? Yep. Okay. Well, let's do a quick time check here. Yeah, we're just over time. I think we made some pretty good progress on the UI and it's, you know, I almost want to not make this one colored anymore now, but, or like, yeah, this is like a bit much when you're in this desktop view mode. When you're in the mobile view mode, it's like more, there's more, it's more spread out or something. I don't know how to put it, but In the desktop view, it's like they're all right next to each other, which kind of makes like it draws the eye to this part of the page and like the rest of it almost kind of disappears a little bit. So I don't know. We might need to adjust this more, but we're making some progress. Okay. So yeah, anyway, let's, do we have anything else to check off in our notes here? Not really. I mean, there's always going to be more style UI adjustments to do. So kind of the question is just going to be where we draw the line. But for now, I think we're good to leave that in. And we're going to push our changes. And that's going to be it. Thanks, y'all. See you next week.